Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Talk. So grab your mug, grab a seat, and it's time to connect. And that's our goal and focus and aim, as always, with these little weekly hangouts, get-togethers, chats. We hang out and you watch. That's kind of what we do here. Anyways, looking back,
it's still participatory. There's a comment section.
There is.
You can comment. Go ahead and comment.
I have read 0 comments. I don't know. Are there comments? Like
every now and then, there's one or two specific individuals who comment, and we appreciate it. But
I appreciate them even if I haven't read them. That's great. Anyways, I know we love face-to-face interaction, and sometimes you're away, we're away. Everybody's every now and then kind of misses that, and
you're in Australia.
Still a way to stay informed and aware of what's happening. And we've now had 2 Sundays in a row where people in our church have shared their story and what God's doing in their life. And this last week we listened to Brad Long, who a lot of us, have had he's been part of Lakeview for a number of years now, and he's been on our deacons committee. He's finishing 1 year. He's finished 1 year. Is that right?
Yeah.
I one of the things I love that he said is just how he loves to meet each and every one of you. Yeah. That's one of the things I see every Sunday is he is making an effort to get to know people. Yeah. And so he shared his story. I think most of us have heard bits and pieces of it over the years. What stood out to you guys from Sunday?
Go ahead.
I too heard that, I really love connecting, and we see that for sure. Like, so he actually runs a Thursday morning group of guys, a men's group that gets together at Pepper Pop on Thursdays, and it's an open thing on every second Thursday.
And I think he would like you to know that. If you want to be part of it, he's not trying to hold it back. He's just like, it changes every week, so he gets people's text numbers and just sends it out the night before.
But the point of that group is just a connection point, right? And they share stories and conversations and stuff like that. There's not necessarily a study or an agenda, but man, do they get a lot of life done in that as well too. So I see and I hear him making those connections as well. But really, I think what jumped out at me, and Brad, I just appreciate your words on this of saying, it seemed like through this person and that person and that person, God was actually trying to get my attention over and over and over. And as I look back on it, I can see, God was actually, reaching out to me, and I wasn't yet ready for it. I think that was even Brad's words of like, I wasn't yet ready to receive it, or I didn't hear, God's voice through all that. And then eventually there came this moment where it kind of just clicked a little bit more. And and he kind of talked about going up to COVID and then being baptized through COVID, like that. That was a crazy day as well too. But like we celebrated with him of this journey. But as he looked back, there was so many times where God reached out and God was faithful, and in His graciousness, He kept coming back to Brad and saying, Brad, connect with me. Brad, do you hear me? Brad, do you see me? And I loved hearing that, because it also gave me hope too, that sometimes I don't hear well. Sometimes Elijah and just that moment where I heard the thunder and the wind and the storm. And I thought God was in all those things, but actually God was in the gentle whisper that actually came through. And so in the same way, just trying to understand where we hear God's voice and how we respond to that, and how we accept or even sometimes even reject His voice as well too. I appreciated his reflection on that.
I love that you brought that up too, because in our series, Divine Assignments, Exploring God's Call, we have this feeling that we got to get it exactly right. We got to understand it. We got to formalize it so we know when to hear it and how to hear it. And that's part of the beauty of Brad's story was I really only kind of see it looking back now. You know, he was leading and guiding and directing, and often that is how God works. You know, and as we get to know him better, as Brad's getting to know him better now, he's hopefully, and we are all hopefully learning to discern it closer to at the moment rather than having to look back. But that's sometimes how God works. That's really cool.
Well, in picking up on the hearing God component, like, I think there's two thoughts, and two kind of, the train's trying to go down two separate tracks at the same time here. One is, how often have we with our own children tried to get their attention, and we're like standing right in front of them, right? And I won't use any specific names, but child, and right? And it might take a minute, and but then how often does that just happen with people in our own lives, right? Maybe it's the child, it's like, dad, and we're so, and I think sometimes God has to, like, he's doing that same thing with us, right? He's trying to get our attention, he's trying, because one of the things, you know, we've been encouraging is that everybody is called, right? Every follower of Jesus is called to something. Sometimes I think that takes a while before we actually, and it's not because God hasn't been trying to get our attention for a year or more, or, you know, like several years, but we just haven't been receptive. And we've sort of been asking the question, you know, how do we hear God? And part of it is by tuning out the distractions, right? Like, we've just got to be in the right place. Like, okay, so I had yesterday, I was trying to make, I found myself a little out of sorts, and I kind of hit pause on everything else. I'm like, what is going on? Like, what? And do you know what I realized? My socks were on too tight. I was like, this was a real life thing. I was like trying to make dinner. I'm trying to like help kids with whatever things going on, and I'm not available to any of that because of something stupid like my socks being on too tight. And I think sometimes we have the same thing going on, right? We've got some, whether it's physical or emotional or whatever thing in our life going on that has absolutely distracted us and prevented us from hearing God, from being, you know, open to what he's trying to have us notice. And
you know, I really like that illustration, and it made me realize I'm very distracted right now because I'm wondering how you put your socks on too tight.
Well, yeah.
Like,
how
is
do you
that
loosen
somebody
them?
else's socks?
That's what I want to know. What was the solution to that?
the solution was tug at the toes, because my toes were all like bound in together and squished.
Oh, I see. So you had to
And I'm like, because I was low cut socks, so I hiked them up at the back so that they would stick out, like so that my shoe wouldn't rub on my heel. But I was at home now, so I could just like.
But you're right. The distractions, you know, that's a lot of. We have so many now. You know, the internet. I mean, we were talking the other day about what was it, Chris? We were talking about.
I don't know. I was distracted. Sorry, Jeff.
We were talking about the poem that I brought after Brad's thing. That is a long poem called "The Sacrifice." It was written in the 1600s, I think.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, man, what would life be like in the 1600s? And you said, oh man, so many less distractions. You know, people could think deeper, and not that we can't now. We just need to.
Well, what else are you going to
Push
do when
away
the
the
sun goes
distractions,
down, right? Like,
you chatted around the fire, or you know, you had family time, or you went to bed and got up early and thought, you know. So yeah. It's good.
Now, life was a lot harder, and every waking minute where, you know, more often than not, it was just a struggle to survive. But if you had downtime, you weren't.
You were hanging out
on social media, right? And we love to blame
Yeah.
kind of the big things, right? TV, internet, all social media, all those things. But really, sometimes the distractions are equally big, but much more manageable, and we're just not even aware of all the times, all the things that actually are distracting us, right? Sometimes you just got to loosen the socks.
We are now going to make a T-shirt that just says, sometimes you just got to loosen.
Can you hear me, or are your socks too tight?
That's great. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Is it?
It is. It is.
That's good.
That's a great analogy for life.
Glad I could brighten your day.
But back to Brad's story,
very happy to.
I just really appreciated that he was willing to share a story so personal. I mean,
Yeah.
I had heard bits and pieces. Many people had heard bits and pieces, but to have him share it and be vulnerable in those moments, like when he was just, God, take my life. I don't want to be here anymore. That's real, and we have days. Some of us have days like that, and
I think what I'd want to encourage our church with is that it really stands on its own, right? And as much as we talk about it, we've all gleaned different things from it. Go listen or watch if you haven't, because and I would say that true about Craig's as well from the week before. Whenever we have someone in our church, or even anyone outside the church, like anyone shares what God's been doing in their life, it's worth listening to those. And I'd say especially Brad's this week, because he offers a perspective that not all of us have, and if nothing else, we do a great service to the kingdom when we just let people who have lived through some things just share their story.
Yeah, and 3 years ago, I don't know if Brad would have been ready to share that story. So it makes me think, okay, yes, go back and listen, but also realize there might be somebody in your life who you actually just need to hear their story and hear where they're at, and maybe they're kind of in that still not feeling like they're able to wrestle through some of these things, and to be able to hear that story and like you said, like it just stands on its own. It's that person's story, but maybe there's somebody in your life that needs to have you come alongside them and hear their story and be encouraged in the same way that we were able to hopefully encourage Brad and thank him for being vulnerable.
Yeah, without us, going, it'll be okay, it'll work out.
Yeah.
God's got, but just to let it sit and let them because Brad wasn't, and getting back to hearing God. Brad wasn't ready to hear.
Yes.
Right? And so for people to come along and say, Romans 8:28, God's got this, it's going to be good, that can often just build resentment in people until they're ready.
Yes.
And so I really appreciate what you're saying there, Kevin. Just listen and just let it sit, even if it's painful, and just let it be.
Yeah.
and love them in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that's called sharing life together.
Yeah, we should do some of that, hey? Like, I don't know, round tables like this, say on a Monday night or a Tuesday night or a Wednesday morning or a Friday or a Thursday morning, right? Again, we just, of course, we're rattling off times when life groups meet around tables like this, and it's always good just to be mindful that if you're part of a life group, that's awesome. That's where important life change happens. And I think there's even talk about, ways to maybe form some new ones. So some people are thinking, hey, we talk about life group, how do I get connected to one? Talk to either of these two, and they would love to plug you in that. But speaking of life groups, I think we're here at this table today because Teresa's memorial's coming up, right? Kevin, what do you is there some things there or who was going to share about that? Was that Jeff or Kevin or both?
I just wanted to reflect that, you get to know people around tables like this in those kind of groups, and Teresa Rector was somebody that I got to know around one of these tables and hearing a bit of their story, and yes, kind of maybe, visiting her at her house, but really hearing some of the faith journey and challenges and stuff like that came out around a table like this. It's a good reflection for me today.
And Jeff, what do we need to know if we wanted to be part of the memorial? What are the details?
2:00 on Saturday. This Saturday, March 9. It will be in the sanctuary at 2, and then we'll come into this room, the fellowship room, for some goodies and just to chat like we often do, and around tables or sitting in chairs or standing up and just chatting, whatever. just rejoice that she's with Jesus now. So,
I really appreciate that that was the longing of Teresa's heart, right? Like when we saw her in December, it was just like, yep, soon and very soon.
Yeah.
And we can celebrate that. We can certainly, with her family. And next week's kind of a big week. There's a few different things going on. Why don't we just start at the beginning?
Tuesday night is a pickleball night. So we have all of our teams formed, and so we're contacting those people to just kind of remind them and stuff they need to bring. But we need people to encourage, and so we'll have some chairs set up around the sanctuary. We'll have a single court, and we are going to just watch some of these pickleball things happening for the Steve Jones Memorial Pickleball Tournament, and just an exciting time to enjoy that reflection of Steve, but also even to celebrate and to connect with Susan as well too. And so we're excited to just hang out with that. So see you on Tuesday. Bring some clappers or some
Cowbell.
Noisemakers. Cowbell. Extra cowbell, please.
More cowbell. We got a court. Will there be a jester? We need someone to come up. Say Tuesday night, 6 o'clock. Yes.
Yeah. 6 o'clock.
6
yes.
o'clock.
Yeah. First game is going to start right away.
Done. So come even a bit early and get a good seat to watch.
Yeah.
Stretch, warm up, do whatever you have to do so that the first game can begin at 6.
Yeah.
Tight schedule. It's going to be a really fun evening of just hanging out and being together.
Yeah.
And that'll be really fun. Friday night. Jeff, you got the details on Friday night, even though you're not invited.
So not this Friday, but the next, yes.
Oh yeah. That's right.
Yeah, the music bingo. I was so glad that Alessa told us what music bingo was, because it wasn't for us saying to somebody. So I don't know if I would come to that if I didn't know what it was. So, but they're going to play a snippet of a song. You got to try to figure out what it is, and that's just part of what they're doing. They're just hanging out together, just getting together and doing life together, as we talked about, being around the table, having fun. So that's March 15th for the women. Anybody can come, any woman can come, and it'll be a good time.
It'll be very good. A couple weeks after that, we are like 3 weeks-ish from Easter.
Yeah. It's early this year.
It is.
Yep.
Not the earliest. I mean, this happens every now and then. I remember other times it's been spring break right into Easter. And so we've been here before. But you know what? And kind of like in true we've been here before fashion, we're going to have a community Good Friday service. Kevin, the usual details there?
Yeah, so Good Friday, which is the 29th, I'm pretty sure, at 10 a.m. at Emmanuel Church. And it will be the gathering of a couple of our Westside evangelical churches together, and to be celebrating in worship and in the Word. We'll hear from one of the Westside pastors, and then we'll be celebrating communion and also taking an offering. And so we'll let you know more details on all those things leading up to it. But that's kind of the structure. But really, it's just a together time to focus in on Good Friday and what it's about and why it's good. And it's
good.
wonderful.
Good Friday at 10
Yeah.
in the morning, 10 a.m. Yep.
10 a.m.
At Emmanuel Church.
At Emmanuel on Good Friday. Excellent.
I don't know how many times you said that, but
I think it bears repeating.
Yes.
You know what? It's an enjoyable time. I love that service every year, even though I'm always like, I'm always with the kids, and then every single Good Friday. Here's what happens. I spend all morning with kids, which is awesome. No complaints there. Really do enjoy it. Come downstairs, find some of our people in the sanctuary afterwards, just milling, hanging out, and everyone's like, oh, that was such a great thing. Can you believe this happened and that happened? I'm like, great. Awesome. Let me tell you about the kids who were praising Jesus upstairs, and that was even more awesome, in my opinion. But anyways, Good Friday, that, and then Easter Sunday will be here on the morning. Anything we need to know about that yet, or just stay tuned for more details?
Stay tuned.
Perfect. Good. Am I missing anything?
I don't think so.
No? Well then, go enjoy the sunshine. Spring is coming soon, hopefully. And we will connect with you Sunday, if not sooner. Have a great weekend, everyone.